creatures are talking to each other today, and none of them are talking to me.
Sorry, Torchy, did you say something?
I haven't anyone to talk to. I feel very lonely.
Yes, how tragic. Oh, hello everyone. Sorry, no time for a proper introduction today. We're back in the first season of Space 1999 for an encounter with another unstoppable psychopath. Here's End of Eternity. Oh, do shut up. So here we are, returning to the first season of Space 1999, and it feels like it's been a while since we've last been here. I know we were here for Earthbound, I think, at around about Christmas, wasn't it? But this is only, I think, our third visit to the first season. We've had lots of trips to the second season, of course. Oh, I love this shot of the Eagle parked sideways on the asteroid. Because that's where we are today. We're starting off on a mysterious asteroid. Never normally a good thing for the Alphans. You'd think they might have learned that by now.
There's an atmosphere source somewhere inside this asteroid.
Inside?
We're 3 light years away from the nearest star system. If the asteroids come from there, to get this far at its present velocity, it's been traveling through space for at least 1,000 years.
Right then. I do like it when it seems to happen a lot in this show, particularly when characters radio in to report something, and then, like, once they've delivered their line, they're done. They switch off. No one even says bye or thank you. It's just, no, I'm gone. We've blown our way into the interior atmosphere of the asteroid.
Yeah. Let's take a look.
Revealings. Luckily, there's an interior door that didn't immediately vent all the atmosphere out into space. And as much as things like underwater scenes, slow motion scuba diving can be a bit tedious in TV and films, I do really like scenes of the Alphans galumping around in slow motion in their spacesuits. So we're back from the opening titles, and this is one written by Johnny Byrne. I always find his scripts for this show, well, let's be fair, he did so much to give this show its heart and its spirit, and even if his episodes don't always come off 100%, they are always
Atmosphere breathable!
Almost just as interesting for how he came up with the ideas as they are to watch in their own right. If you've ever seen him interviewed in various documentaries or in articles and such, he really was quite a fascinating man. We're now slowly creeping our way through the interior of this asteroid. Lots of tunnels leading off places. Oh, and a door, which was upside down for that shot.
No use. All right, stand clear, Victor.
And appropriately enough, considering the way this episode is going to turn out, this really does feel like the beginnings of a horror film, as so many Space 1999 episodes do, but certainly first season ones. Some might argue episodes from the second season were horrors in a different way, but yeah, I do love this sort of natural curiosity leading to, utter disaster.
Baxter, you all right?
Not Baxter.
All right, Commander.
Yeah, the door wouldn't respond to lasers. Koenig shot it, wandered off, and it exploded on our good friend Baxter.
Sure you're all right? Yeah, I think so.
Who I waffled over Koenig actually calling Jim back there, even though his name's Mike. The actor's name's Jim Smiley. And we're in a room with some rather nasty paintings. Underneath one... Oh, bloody hand. And this is an episode as well that also makes really, really good use of non-Barry Gray library music. There's some really sinister atmospheric stuff in here.
He's in a bad way, Commander. I doubt if he'll make it.
And I've always wondered to what extent
Fusion really ripped him apart.
that extra music was
Let's get him back to Alpha as quickly as we can.
was included, maybe to
Flip.
because Barry Gray only scored 4 episodes, and I was just wondering if it was always the plan to to have him do 4 and then bolster it with library material, or was it his own idea? But whoever it was,
Yeah. It's a one-room world.
it was a stroke of genius, because in episodes like this, with the horror content that this one has, the normal sort of jolly Barry Gray stuff doesn't quite fit as well. And we've got now like a dozen people escorting this injured man to the medical centre. Now, I love that this show had so much money to throw around in the first series that they could afford so many extras.
You ran a track on Bank Street.
Because you're not doing anything. Yeah, they have too many extras to even like give enough jobs to.
All right, not the problem.
Oxygen small. It's registering stable. No. Vital signs.
Erratic.
Switch on.
And this is a really interesting little scene as well. Koenig and Bergman watching Helena and her medical staff trying to save this injured man on a monitor.
Problem.
And it feels very realistic. It feels very naturalistic, the dialogue and the performances. Obviously, it doesn't last very long, but I think they were even letting 1 or 2 of the extras speak there.
I'm sorry.
Well, you tried.
What now?
An autopsy, I suppose.
And Dr. Mathias is like, oh yeah, I suppose that's going to be on me. He doesn't even have to say anything now. He just knows he's going to get all the rubbish jobs. That's it. Pulling the sheet back over our very dead man, because he's very, very dead. Honest.
Mike, the blast hit you harder than it hit the rest of us. Now, medical seems to think that there might be some damage.
Now, you're not a main character, but you're not an extra either, so it's kind of a grey area as to how we proceed with this.
bull about it.
Oh, he said a rude word. He said a rude word.
Check you out. As soon as you're clear, I'm sure you'll be able to fly again. As far as I'm concerned, there's no problem.
I mean, you can fly anything you want, even if your eyes are falling out of their sockets. I don't care. You've seen some of my landings. I'm not going to criticize you for any of yours. Oh, and I really like this as well. This autopsy scene. It's Helena and Mathias and an orderly. For some reason, they're all sort of wearing plastic smocks, which I suppose is hygienic enough, but that's not what I'm trying to get at. The point is, we are outside whichever room in the medical centre this is all happening in, with the door shut, so we can't hear their reactions when they pull off the face bandages. And see, he's absolutely fine. And now they start yelling at each other in silence to do things. Again, that's just such a cool little director touch. And it only happens a moment before we get dialogue back.
John!
Just a little while ago, that man was severely injured. He was mutilated beyond description. I happen to know because I dressed his wounds myself.
In fact, it was my own firing at the door and causing a massive explosion that injured him.
Indicated that he had died. Well, now he's alive. And what's more, we can't find any sign of injury, internal or external. He is completely healed. There's no cell decay. Oh, his body is being held in some sort of stasis.
Helena, that asteroid's been out in space for maybe 1,000 years. Is it possible that he's been out there all that time?
Well, these figures are just early indications. But if they're leading us where I think they are, anything is possible.
I also love that in the first seasons, presenting the Alphans with a problem. Not just a problem, but something that's so far beyond human understanding, and just watching them kind of stumble around in the dark for an explanation, because it's all they can do, at least at first.
Right? From the atmosphere chamber. And I bombarded it with antimatter to try and break down its molecular structure.
That sounds wildly dangerous, Victor. I thought I'd use a flamethrower on it and chuck a couple of nukes in there. Yeah, we'll see what happens.
And now look.
Ooh, so the asteroid rock can be destroyed. and then it reappears again. Remind you of anyone?
It's the same piece of rock, somehow reformed, reintegrated, regenerated. Just like the cell structure of the alien. My guess is that it's not really a rock at all, but a living organism. You can burn it, scrape it, blast it, bombard it with antimatter, and somehow it'll regenerate itself.
And this is, again, I think maybe I enjoy the direction on this more than anything else, but this scene of Bergman hypothesizing is intercut with scenes of our alien visitor waking up.
Organic matter? Or was it created for some specific purpose?
And again, these scenes of I'll call him Balor because I know that's his name, waking up are in total silence with ominous music. Oh, and he's out. And now we're going to get some, I think, reasonably impressive fight scenes. Again, in silence with creepy music. Yeah, lots of stuntmen flying around in silence. It's... And this music fits so well that it could honestly have been composed for this. Oh, and that's the security guard getting his face mushed against the door frame and bounce off the trampoline into the wall, and he's down. Oh, and I can't remember that security guard's name, but he was in a lot of things. He was a very brave man. He's the guy who gets set on fire at the end of License to Kill. He's the one who did that stunt. Anyway, Balor is now stalking his way down Moonbase Alpha's corridors, pausing to have a quick stroke of the old compost in the corridor.
How do I look?
Fine.
I mean, for an obviously doomed character, you look fine.
When do I get back to flying?
Well, we'll have to check the tests first.
And this is
Checks.
another really strong guest performance, and one I don't think gets enough recognition in the first season, is Jim Smiley as Mike Baxter, who, yeah, it's a really kind of sad aspect to this story. We essentially, as this show did a couple of times,
Grounded.
we don't just present the non-regular Alphans as essentially cannon fodder, the way you might see similar characters on Star Trek. Put on a red shirt and you're going to be zapped or whatever. This show liked to take the time more than once to really explore who these minor but doomed characters were before they met their end.
It's been severely damaged.
And now poor old Mike has been told that he can't fly because of damage to his eye.
Leave me alone.
And of course, his
Leave me alone.
the entire layout of his quarters is just full of models of planes and pictures of spacecraft on the wall. This flying is clearly his entire life, for his whole life, and now we have this very sad shot of him looking at the little model plane, and yeah, that is very sad. And it again reinforces the I think the inherent sadness of everybody on Alpha, because they've all had to lose so much that made them happy. They're all just barely clinging on to existence by the slimmest of margins, that even losing, as we can clearly see, Baxter losing his ability to fly is just devastating when there's so little to hold on to.
Father, the aliens escaped from security.
Oh, we put 2 men on the door. That should have been enough. And Peter Bowles, who I apologise in advance, I may actually say Peter Bowles, because for the longest time I kept thinking his name was pronounced Bowles. So if I say Bowles, I don't mean Bowles, I mean Bowles. He gives a very strong, very interesting performance in this episode, and I think the sequence where he's wandering around Alpha, not specifically being evil or sinister, he's just exploring, because he genuinely doesn't know where he is or who all these strange people are, is really effective. Also helps that he appears to be wearing platform shoes that are about... Well, they look about 2 inches tall. So all the Alphans are running away, but... Oh, there's a poor little lady on the floor who can't... Oh, she couldn't get up and everybody kept trampling her. Anyway, we're going to throw our 2 security guards who failed earlier back at the problem. That'll take care of it. And they brought 2 of their buddies. And similarly, it's not going very well. Although the stunt man for Peter Bowles there is quite obvious, as is that cable holding up the guy he just lifted over his head. Anyway, Koenig and Alan are here now. And Koenig will let Alan do the dangerous work and fire at the naughty man.
Use the kill ray.
No! Please! Please, I must talk to you. My name is Balor.
Hi, Balor.
I am a citizen of the planet Program. Now is the time to stop, to talk, to try to understand each other.
And Peter Bowles is,
Yes.
I think, doing a really good job here because he is just he's bringing just the right sort of
Do not misunderstand me.
element of
Great service.
sliminess is the only word I can really think of. He very much feels like a politician making promises he has no intention of
I
keeping.
don't understand why you're not dead.
But he does also seem very sincere, particularly when he's talking about his own history.
We were mortal, as you are. Our scientists began to experiment with the forces of life and death. They found first a means to eliminate the aging process in living tissue. My body is immortal.
I also like that they've brought Balor to main mission to have this conversation rather than just go straight to Koenig's office. Koenig is quite willing to make this a public forum for anyone to pitch in with any observations.
I will tell you what happened on my world. And then perhaps you will begin to understand.
Although I believe this is one of maybe only a couple of episodes in which Xenia Merton appears but doesn't have any dialogue.
We tried to reverse the process. We tried to instill in the minds of our people the thought that only death gives a purpose to life, that a full response to life can only be measured against the fear of death. How can you value life if you do not fear death? I persisted, but in the end they turned on me. I was the enemy, the cause of all their misfortune. A prison was constructed out of living rock. And I was shut in and cast out to suffer eternal solitude for what were considered my crimes.
Oh, Helena's eyes are watering. She's clearly bought it. The others, maybe not so sure. And also, I believe this is one of the final screen villains that Peter Bowles played throughout the 60s. He was a familiar face in these ITC shows. He would turn up in things like The Saint and others. The Avengers was another where he was always the baddie. And then this episode had a certain profound effect on various female members of the audience. He ultimately had more than one woman turn up on his doorstep saying, you know, I saw you playing the most evil man in the universe. Please do with me what you will. I believe one of these women actually came over from America. And after that, he was not so keen to play any villainous roles. Which is why a lot of his subsequent work as in sitcoms and such.
That space, it adds up.
And you can read about that in his autobiography, which actually has,
Well, it makes sense.
oddly enough, a photograph in there designed by
Immortality.
me. Because I went through a phase in sort of 2008, 9, 10-ish of sending out photographs asking for actors' autographs, and I designed like a Space 1999 template, which I was quite proud of, and I sent one to Peter asking for it to be signed. I never got it back, but that I didn't mind because I'm not owed anything, and I've waffled all over the yeah, that is a really nasty clip there. Those paintings are so ugly.
Terror. Destruction.
Yeah, he didn't return the photo. I don't care. But he published it in the photo section of his autobiography.
Maybe that's what he offered.
So, yeah, clearly he appreciated it on some level. Which is quite a strange thing to see a copy of that in Waterstones, flick through, thinking, I wonder if he's got anything about Space 1999 in there. Uh-huh.
Something he hasn't told us about.
Yeah, those paintings are really nasty. And that's that sudden... Although we saw them in the chamber earlier, seeing those sudden close-ups with the screaming...
I want you to run a constant computer check on Balor's whereabouts.
Which really brings home the violence in those images, like people with great big spikes stuffed through their heads. That's quite strong stuff, even for just a painting. I would assume those are paintings by Keith Wilson, but they are very nasty. And speaking of very nasty...
What do you want? I can understand you resenting me.
Balor has turned up in Mike Baxter's plane-filled quarters. And just as an aside, it would have been really cool if one of the aircraft seen on display here was something from like the Century 21 era.
What is it? And your minor disability.
Oh, but he's got some model aircraft kit boxes there as well.
Perhaps I can help you.
Oh yeah, with that lovely smile. Who could resist that?
Commander, computer reports that Balor has just entered Mike Baxter's quarters.
So naturally, Koenig goes to speak to the sinister, possibly dangerous alien, all alone, without security. But Balor doesn't seem to be here, just Mike.
Well, I'm glad to see you feeling better about things, Mike. Balor was here. What did he want?
And as I believe I covered this quite extensively in my top 10 scariest Space 1999 moments video a couple of years back. This attack scene is so... Not only is it so violent, far more violent than you would really expect this show to be, the fact that you're not seeing the actual violence, that we are the plane and we are the person being hit by the plane, ending with this massive screaming brain death thing. Oh gosh, yeah, bit of the old extreme ultra violence there. Again, beautiful direction, but not just beautiful direction, strange direction. I think I read a review of this show once, the series as a whole, that said, Space 1999 is the only show where every week you're guaranteed to see a grown man screaming in absolute hysteria. But with scenes like this, and we don't even really need to see the aftermath of the attack. Just the bloodied hand is enough, and the fact that we know that there was, there was like copious amounts of blood applied to Landau for the aftermath of this scene. Really gruesome injury detail. And this huge pool of blood on the floor after.
Baxter got the jump on me. He was still battering me when I passed out. And yet look at me now. There isn't a mark on me.
Bob, I want to report on what caused this death.
Yes, we'll rush an autopsy through straight away.
Joe, that expression, that attitude of the hands, where have we seen that before?
Saw the asteroid. There's pictures on the walls.
And I always wonder if
Balor could have.
Baxter looks not just dead, but very, very, very dead, almost like rigor has already set in, and I always wondered if he had to be buried in that position with his hands up.
Why didn't he kill you?
And his mouth wide open like that.
Paul, locate Balor. Have him come to my office.
Ask the nice evil killer alien to come and have a meeting with me. Oh, but Balor's already there.
Did you visit one of our people? A man called Baxter. He's now dead.
Is he?
And again with the direction here, because this scene is lit with lots of heavy shadows in Koenig's office.
I happen to know you went to Baxter's quarters.
And Peter Bowles is hovering around in those shadows quite a bit. It's very effective.
And you waited until he thrashed me within an inch of my life. And then you came back and healed my wounds. Correct?
And an awkward moment of dubbing here.
Yes, everything that you say is absolutely correct.
Why?
I'm not sure why. That seems to be the only dubbed line in the entire scene.
You will follow my way. My philosophy will prevail here now.
You see, Koenig, when you released me from my isolation, you
Left something there very precious to me. My paintings. Of course you noticed them. Scenes of terror, torture, chaos, destruction.
Yes. I know now that they were put there to remind you of what you did to your own people.
Right again, Koenig. And 1,000 years of reflection have convinced me I was right. And now I have found a golden opportunity to prove it. Accept the challenge, Koenig. Surrender to the exquisite forces of pain and suffering, and you will transcend your limitations.
I love how excited Balor is by the thought of all this.
What you offer is evil. We will resist you.
Oh, please, don't make me kill you. I have to be careful with mortals.
And it's a really nice dynamic as well between Bowles and Landau.
Baxter was too lucky.
Because you can see that Koenig is clearly...
Alpha, your people.
He knows how dangerous what Balor is promising would be. He knows this guy could kill him in an instant, very horribly, but he still knows he has to stand up to him.
Elsie,
No.
how will you stop me?
And Bowles is just tiptoeing on the right side of madness, tipped with the knowledge that he has the ability to do everything he says. Oh, that's it. Balor's on the loose in main mission. And he's going after the most important thing in the room. No, don't do it. Not Kano's desk. Oh, no.
There will be death and destruction on this base. Until he agrees.
Now, there's an extra in this scene who I've seen several times in other episodes. She always seems to be smiling, even in moments of extreme peril like this one. She had a great big smile on her face. I don't know what that's all about. Anyway, Balor's on the loose in Alpha. Again.
Killer who can't be killed.
And of course, that's the basic premise of the episode. That was the idea that Johnny Byrne then developed into this wonderful character of Balor.
Balor is tearing Alpha apart. Well, can't we do something?
Yes, hold out. Until we come up with something.
Although I would say that maybe this is an example of, show don't tell, and we just had Paul there saying, all these terrible things are happening that we can't show you. Oh, but now here we are in Medical Center. Maybe we will see something nasty.
Dr. Russell, your medical functions here are now obsolete.
Get out of here.
Oh, and that's it for a little dark-haired orderly lady. But it isn't clear if he kills her or not.
I will not kill you.
Because nobody actually confirms it one way or another.
One of our orderlies is... Balor is a cold-blooded killer.
And I know she, based on what she says there, it sounds like that orderly is probably dead. I would argue that the fact she turns up in later episodes very much alive is possibly evidence that she she recovered. As was often the case in shows like this. I think in the second series, Harry Fielder is an extra who gets killed, and then the next week he's back alive again, like nothing happened.
I hear that. You're right. I'll put it through the comm logs.
And I'm actually I'm rewatching the original Star Trek at the moment. You'd be surprised how many people, this guy gets killed, this guy in the red shirt gets killed, and then next week he's alive and well again, like nothing happened.
Tries to turn the whole area into a vacuum.
You agree to my terms?
No psychopath is going to dictate terms to us, Balor.
I mean, we got rid of Simmons already. We don't need you. Because as powerful as Balor is, he's not beyond being a little manipulated by Koenig on his vanity and his ego.
As soon as I'm cleared to pressurize. Are you crazy?
You'll tear you to pieces. You can't fight him.
Alan, I know that. What do you want me to do? Invite him to leave?
So, of course, we now have a daring, heroic plan to put into operation. And that requires Koenig does it alone. For some reason.
What's happening?
He's gone in there to take Balor. Alone.
And poor old Balor's looking a bit bored now. He's plodded around Alpha, wrecked everything. And Balor seems to be aware as well that he's being lured into a trap. As the doors are slowly closing behind him as he advances on Koenig. I also like that the airlock doors are only identified by stickers that are put on there. You would expect, since it's always going to be the airlock door, it might be a bit more permanent, but...
Ready here, Paul.
I suppose in this situation it's lucky that it isn't.
What are you doing here, Koenig?
Thinking.
Thinking about accepting my offer?
This is my favourite thinking place.
Maybe.
And here we discover a new power of Balor's.
Any more time, Koenig?
An electric slap. Which you would think might have been useful before.
Look, Balor, I need a little more time.
All right, Koenig, all right.
I would have to say that Peter Bowles is having a blast with this. He looks like he's having so much fun. Oh, that's it. Koenig to the door. Paul tried to close the airlock door, but...
Time's up, Koenig.
Bit too late.
I want your decision. No, Koenig!
And that was the limit of Xenia Merton's contribution to this episode. She stood up. She had a close-up there where she stood up. I mean, I know things were rough for her on the second season, but usually whenever she appeared there, she had lines. Balor is now tossing Koenig around in the airlock.
I'm trying not to kill you, Koenig.
But he's so secure in his own superiority, he's not expecting... Oh, that. Oh. And Koenig's got himself punched out the airlock. Doors closed. Outer doors open. And it's all sorted. It's all over.
Are you all right, Commander?
Yeah, Paul.
Although I never quite understood how Balor, being ejected from the base, seems to... I don't know what happened after that. Because now we have this scene of them planting charges to blow up the asteroid. But what happened to Balor out on the... Because he wouldn't have achieved escape velocity to get off the moon. He's got to be somewhere on the lunar surface. Did they have an eagle come in with, like, one of those grabs like you get in the arcade machines to sort of pick him up and, I don't know, put him back on the asteroid, maybe? There is actually a... the first in the Powers Media Space 1999 continuation books, which I only recently read.
I like it we survived.
Which,
It was our fault. We unleashed him.
We meddled. We interfered with another people's justice. We must learn to leave some things alone.
Until next week, where we unleash yet another horror that we really shouldn't go anywhere near.
The price was too high.
Yeah, I believe the book is called Resurrection. I want to say that it was written by William Latham, and it sort of picked up on the premise that Balor was just left on the lunar surface. I think, if I'm remembering that correctly. It's a very good book. Well worth a look. Anyway, the destroyed asteroid has resurrected itself, ending the story on a nice ominous note, and that was End of Eternity, which has never been one of my absolute favourite Space 1999s. it has a lot of strong ideas in it. It's just like a nice, typical... I don't want to use the word average episode, because an average episode of Space 1999 is still awesome. But, yeah, some fantastic acting from Peter Bowles. Love a bit of Balor.